Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us on this nasty-looking day outside in the South Bend area. The snow is coming down. It's only supposed to get more out there. Driving was just a joy getting around today, Vince.
It's only gotten worse. So I had a school bus have an issue with one of my kids on the way home. So she was really late getting home, and it was a challenge driving. So good luck to you, sir. Take it slow, take it easy. You know, don't rush it. It's gonna take some time. Take your time.
Try not to.
Yeah.
Try not to. Getting across town and then getting here to the station tonight. There was actually something happened about not quite a quarter mile in front of me. I could see all these cars stop, so I had to take this quick kind of detour. So I made sure that I could keep going because everything was backed up the way that I had to go. So,
and it's like the visibility is like the issue because the way the wind and the snow and everybody be careful out there. If you're listening on the radio in your car, just take it easy. We'll get you home. Just pay it. Just, we got 2 hours with you. So we got you.
Last I heard was 7 to 14 inches. I don't know if that forecast is still the same, but that's like
who knows
through sometime tomorrow. But fortunately, I've got four-wheel drive in one of my vehicles.
I don't. I drive a Ford Focus, and that's going to get me not that far. But that's okay. It's whatever. I'll get there.
I'm not very, I was already. Do you order like things off? This is like totally random.
Okay.
Do you order things off Amazon very often?
More often than we should.
Do you get like, when you're sitting there scrolling and it's, it's like arrives by, and it'll say, like arrives by tomorrow. And so you're like, cool, I can get it right away. So you order it and then you get the email confirming your order and it says arrives by next Monday. After it just told you that it was going to deliver it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time. I ordered something today and I'm already ticked off. So
I will say that it does.
The weather made me think of it because the weather's not going to help that delivery.
No,
even if it was supposed to come tomorrow.
I've had things get delayed as they're en route or whatever, but I don't think I've had the instant delay like you're referring to. I don't know that I've ever had
all
that.
the time. Literally, it'll say, arrives by Tuesday or, whatever. And then when I get the email, it's always at least 2 days later than they originally promised. And it's like, I ordered this because you said it was going to be here by this date.
Right.
And now you're already telling me it's going to be beyond that.
Canceled.
So, I should. That's a good call. If you didn't hear yesterday's Brady Quinn interview, you can always go to either the Irish Breakdown podcast platform, the Sports Radio WSBT podcast platform, or either of the YouTube channels of those two, and you can see or hear it. He did cover up his camera, so if you go to YouTube, you're not going to see Brady's chiseled jaw talking to you anyway. So,
did you get any complaints about that from anybody?
Fewer than I thought.
Okay, good.
Actually,
good.
Yeah, I thought that there might be some of that. Maybe he just said good enough things in the interview. I thought he had a lot of good responses to a lot of different things. So maybe people were just happy to hear Brady Quinn.
Just dialed in, just wishing that instead of an interview with you, he was the color guy for Notre Dame. That's what they were all wishing and hoping.
Yeah, and we did talk about that. And he basically shot it down, but he also didn't completely disregard it. I'll have to bring that specific response back on Friday, and we can talk about what he said to that, actually, and a couple other things for that matter as well. Well, speaking of comments,
and speaking of being vague,
yes, Marcus Freeman today. Press conference. It was interesting, and I know you were working, and I couldn't be, like full disclosure, I couldn't be at the press conference today because we just found out about this yesterday.
Right.
My daughter has had this doctor's appointment that she had to go to. It was 1:15 today. So I was actually trudging across the snow across town to get her to that while listening and driving. It's like I'm driving and I'm listening to the press conference on the YouTube, and then we're sitting there in the waiting room, and I've got my earbuds in, and I'm still listening to as much as possible. And I've got my little notebook, and she's like, "What are you going to do with those notes?" Like, well, when it's all over with, this will come in handy. So
right, exactly.
Yes. But I asked about a lot of different things. The most recurring topic was all this NFL talk this offseason.
It was almost overdone with the questions that were being asked about the NFL. I felt like he kind of answered the question. I mean, some of the follow-ups were okay. I thought that was kind of a dead horse that was being beaten a little bit. There were some other things I would have liked to hear about, but it is what it is. I know that's the topic du jour at the moment. It's just, I guess my big thing was we're not going to get, and somebody online gave me a hard time because I said we're not going to have a chance to talk to Marcus Freeman until spring practice, right? And I responded with, well, something took place over the last week and a half that he wanted to respond to. That's why we're having a press conference. It has nothing to do with updating anybody about the portal or coaching changes or NFL rumors. That's just, okay, I guess we'll talk about that too.
And look, if that wasn't obvious, he led off the press conference with a statement about the allegations that obviously turned out to be BS, that were, that the wrestling, that a rival high school wrestling coach made against him, and the St. Joseph, as we talked about on Monday, the St. Joe prosecutor's office, so there's nothing here. We're not filing any charges in this whole thing. But he led off the press conference with a
prepared statement.
So it's obvious what, he wanted to get that off his mind and address that publicly. And then it's like, oh, by the way, I'll go ahead and take other questions about, other things.
And the point that I made before I started going off on a tangent there was that we as a media are not going to have a chance to talk to him again until spring practice.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there's some other things they could have touched on before he cut it off at 30 minutes or whatever it was. And, since we're not going to have a chance to talk to him again for probably.
Was there something like at the top of the list that you really wanted to hear about?
I don't know. They kind of touched on the portal and different things. And there's stuff that he couldn't specifically talk about, but, talk about some of the guys that are, on campus now. And, I don't know, just more football related stuff as opposed to the rumor mill, I guess, is where I would have liked to go. But I'm glad he had an opportunity to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, we got to hear from him anyway, his thoughts on the NFL, his thoughts about the future, some thoughts about the transfer portal. He was asked about USC.
Yeah.
There was plenty in there. There's only so much time in this show that we're going to get to today.
We've got weeks of time where we can fill with his quotes.
That's exactly right. We've
good.
That's right. We got tonight, baby. Who needs tomorrow? So
well played.
By the way, second hour of the show tonight is going to be a mailbag, and we've got some mailbag questions from the Champions Lounge from Irish Breakdown. And, so if anyone else wants to throw in some questions here and there along the way, we'll be doing that in the second hour of the show tonight. But, let's just jump into this NFL thing, because after all the reports about NFL interest, Freeman, I think this was the first question he was asked about the NFL. What are his plans now for the future in terms of his career? And here's what Marcus Freeman said.
Yeah, the head coach at Notre Dame. And I've said this before, that individual recognition, individual success, NFL interest, those are all a reflection of team success, right? And where this football program is. And Pete, I've used some of the interest from the NFL to personally gain wisdom from maybe some of the GMs or the front office executives that you get a chance to talk to about your players, but also about, what they view as a successful coach. Maybe it's an NFL coach, but what are some of the things they've seen that have made a coach successful in their organization or franchise, and maybe not so successful? And so I utilize these opportunities through conversations to gain knowledge myself, to be the best head coach I can be of the Notre Dame football program. And so, again, that's where my mindset is. And I don't control the noise, but again, I know the noise that's in my head and where my focus is.
Okay, so there he talks about the NFL interest, and he went with the kind of what his standard, as long as the Notre Dame is having success, there's going to be interest in him. There's going to be interest in Notre Dame assistant coaches. There's going to be interest in Notre Dame players with a transfer portal. What I found the most interesting, though, was where he segued into the talking to executive, basically acknowledging that there have been some conversations with NFL executives at one point or another.
That was very interesting because he kind of skirted right through that. And it was, he didn't come right out and say he interviewed for a job, but he said that he talked to GMs and front office people, and so this wasn't just a situation where it was his agent having those conversations. Marcus Freeman was involved in those conversations. And so I think that is telling, at least where his head's at. And look, I understand when you have those conversations, it can also benefit you in your current job and all of those things. Absolutely. That's not why he was having those conversations. You know what I mean? Like, so
right.
I feel like that was very telling.
You can spin it in that direction.
Right.
Well, actually, this was very useful because it all benefits Notre Dame now. You know,
right.
I've been talking to them. It's we're all good here. We're all good here. It's everything benefits Notre Dame.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Right.
I
Pay no attention to that general manager calling the Notre Dame football.
Right. I do think he put to bed, like, I'm the head coach at Notre Dame. Like, I do think he put that to bed, at least for this season. Hopefully we're past it at this point. He didn't say, I believe, anything definitive about the long term, right? Now. See?
Yeah, you led me right into this next part.
That's what I do.
Because he was asked if he looks at being the head coach at Notre Dame as a long-term situation, or is this something that he is going to evaluate every year going forward? And here's the response to that.
Well, I think I didn't have to reevaluate, right? Other people may say I reevaluate. I didn't ever have to reevaluate it. Again, the only statement I put out was, let's run it back, right? And I was intentional about that. Like, I don't need to come out with a statement every time one of these job openings happen. I always say the future is uncertain, right? That's what I tell our players, is what I tell myself. It's the reality of life. But everything I want and everything that I need personally can be achieved right here as the head coach of this program. And so I hope this is something we have to address every year. I really do, because it means we're having a lot of success right here at Notre Dame. And if this isn't something we'd have to address, then there's bigger issues, I think, within what we're doing as a football program. But as your program has success, these type of things are going to occur.
I mean, he's right doing, because again, it goes back to if we're in a national championship game, we obviously, being Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, from his perspective, if they're playing for a national championship, if they're in the college football playoff again next year, he's like, this is something that is going to come up every year. Now, I also agree. Does he have to come out and speak publicly every time something comes up? No. But at the same time, he could just come out once and say, I don't care. Pay no attention to any of that NFL stuff that you're talking about. I'm the Notre Dame football coach, and I'm here to stay. It would be that easy.
He could squash it if he wanted to, and he enjoys the overtures. That's the way. That's the read I get.
Freeman, because absolutely, he didn't technically get an extension on his contract, but he did get the enhanced contract with some things that were added onto it after this round of everything that came up after getting the extension last year.
Exactly. So I mean, it benefits him to not definitively say one way or the other. It does. It benefits him financially. It benefits him in a lot of different ways, and the conversations that he has with transfer portal guys or recruits or whatever are the conversations that he's going to have with those people. We're not privy to those conversations. And so as long as he's being honest and upfront with those guys, I'm cool with it. Like, as much as maybe people want to think it or think it actually is true, recruits aren't sitting at home just scrolling Twitter trying to see if Marcus Freeman is coming or going. If they have a question, they're going to ring him up and they're going to ask him.
Because it's like everything else. Everyone is looking out for themselves more than you're thinking about that. And that's what it comes down to. It's like they're taking care of them. Marcus Freeman is taking care of himself and his program. But yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Social media is not steering the ship of recruiting and all of those kinds of things. It's a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody needs to take a breath on that one, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this today. It's like I wish I wasn't so online.
I know, seriously.
Because it's, you know, I've had there's some conversations I've had with someone who doesn't work in this business, and they're like, you know, I just don't pay attention to the media. Like I ignore all that stuff. It doesn't do any good. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. In a perfect world, I would, but I literally scroll Twitter every day looking to see what's going on, looking for the next piece of breaking news,
topics to talk about. Like, all
doing a 2-hour show every night, so I can't just ignore all that.
Exactly.
Stuff, you know,
and that's the thing. Like, I'll be annoyed with something, and so I'll stay off social media, and then all of a sudden I'm getting texts from you or Jesse or Brian. Oh, did you see this? Did you see this? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so then I got to jump back in and just get sucked right back into it. Like, if you want to be in the know about something, then you've kind of got to, you know, you can filter it through your head and all those different things. And you also have to just be careful not to go down a rabbit hole and things like that. But that's the world we live in right now, is the instant information, the breaking news. You know, it's not even a 24-hour news cycle anymore. It's more like a
news cycle,
2-hour news cycle. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, things are just like, I was annoyed. This whole thing about the January 3rd broke, you know, Sunday morning, I believe it was. And like 12 hours later, somebody messaged me, what's going on with this whole Freeman thing? And by then I was annoyed. Like, I had already talked to like 100 different people. I had explained it like a ton of times. 12 hours later, an older gentleman texted me and it's like, what's going on with this whole thing? And I'd be like, man, you are so far behind. I'm not even answering right now. Like, I'm not. So that's what I'm talking about.
This conversation,
right? It's like, that ship has sailed, baby.
Chris asks why. You're going to have to be more specific. Why? What? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, Chris. But Tuco says in the YouTube chat, does it benefit you to not be definitive when the wife asks you questions? Well,
not usually.
Oh, it's like you get. Are you going to get grilled? You know, until you finally break down, or are you in the interrogator? Like, she's the interrogator, you're in the torture chamber every day until
the whole lies of omission. Like, that's where it gets you. The lies of omission can bite you. So you gotta be careful.
So you're sitting there in the chair in the kitchen. She's like, "You want a glass of water, honey?" Knowing full well that if you drink the glass of water, you're going to have to get up and go to the bathroom sometime.
It's always, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to be here all night, Vinny. See how long this lasts.
That's right.
All right. I got a couple more on the NFL situation with Marcus Freeman before we move on to some other topics. But he was asked if he looks at being the head. Oh, okay. I've already done that one. This, I think, was a very important question. I wasn't exactly sure how he would respond when he was asked this. Does he want to be an NFL head coach? Here's Marcus Freeman's response.
Do I want to be? I mean, I don't really. I've never done it. You know, I don't know if it will. I don't know enough about it. You know, it may be sometime in the future if it's the right time and it's what I think is right for me, then maybe I'll pursue it. But I don't love wasting time thinking about things that aren't right in front of me. And so I don't know what I'll want in however many length of time, you know, how much length of time from now. I don't know. But I know right now that I am as convicted and motivated to be in the best head coach of the Notre Dame football program as I can be.
Yeah, definitive statement right there.
The last part was a definitive statement. The entry into that, it felt like he was feeling his way through that. Felt like he was a little caught off guard that he was even asked that question to me.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Well, he didn't shut the door on the possibility. And
Exactly.
And I don't have a problem with that. Why would you shut the door on an opportunity? You're 40 years old. He could potentially coach for another 30 years. Why would you shut the door on a potential, career change at some point? I'm not saying I want Marcus Freeman to leave anytime soon. I don't think he's really good for this program. All of the things. But I would never shut the door on any opportunity, let alone being one of 32 head coaches at the highest level. I wouldn't shut the door on it. I don't know that it was as well thought out of an answer as maybe he could have gotten out there,
Correct.
but I have no problem with him not shutting the door on it. I don't. I just hope it's not like next year. That's my thing.
Right. Let me go back to, if I can find it here again. What did I do with it? There it is. I'm going to play just the first few seconds of this again.
Do I want to be? I mean, I don't really. I've never done it. I don't know if it will. I don't know enough about it. It may be sometime in the future if it's.
Okay. So he has to have thought, like, this is
yeah.
2 cycles in a row. He was approached by NFL teams. At the very least, feelers were put out. At the very least, and again, go back to the first response that he had where he's talked to general managers and front office type people. He's obviously, talked to some people about some different things as it pertains to the NFL. It feels like that felt like he was trying to avoid it as much as possible because he has to have thought about it more than what he was leading on there. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he knew he was going to get asked these questions, and I don't know that he was quite prepared enough to answer them in multiple ways, which is kind of how they were asked. You know what I mean?
But this was the most direct. Do you want to be an NFL head coach?
He's definitely thought about it. Let's just say that.
Right. And I remember a few years back when Tommy Rees was still here, and it was after, he had talked about, like he came in and he talked about, I watched every NFL game this summer or something, along those lines. And he talked, like every play of every NFL game. And I remember asking him, like, do you want to be an NFL coach in the future? And his only response, well, he did the I'm where my feet are planted right now. And then kind of evaded the rest of it. I think as we look at where Tommy Rees has ended up in his career, it was pretty obvious. But he, at the very least, was more direct with that response. I'm where my feet are planted now. Whatever will be, or whatever came after it.
Right.
But like Marcus Freeman just felt to me like he didn't want to stand up there and lie to everybody. So he was trying to find some other response.
Exactly. And he's not the kind of guy who, like, there's plenty of guys out there who would say, I'm not going anywhere ever.
Right.
I don't want to be in the NFL. And then they go, you know what I mean? And then they go, right? Like Nick Saban, when he was with the Dolphins, I have no interest in the Alabama job.
And 2 days later, he was the Alabama.
So I do believe Marcus Freeman is the kind of person who doesn't want to put himself in that type of position, which is why he leaves open all this stuff about the future.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. He doesn't want to paint himself into a corner and then call himself a liar,
Yep.
Okay.
I've got one other thought from Marcus Freeman on the NFL. We'll hear that after we take a break. There's some other things that he talked about, from the transfer portal to getting these undergrads in who have multiple years of eligibility, which didn't used to be a thing.
Nope.
He talked about the future of Notre Dame, USC, and some other stuff. So we will address all that still when we return after Marcus Freeman's press conference this afternoon at Notre Dame. With Vince D'Addario, Sean Steiners, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues, along with Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Stay safe out there if you're driving around the area. It is just flat out nasty. I'm not looking forward to driving home after the show tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. My whole family has now made it home safely, so I'm very happy about that.
Good news.
Yep.
Okay, one final thought from Marcus Freeman on anything to do with the NFL from his press conference today. He was asked if there's been any negative impact on recruiting or anything else as a result of all these reports about NFL interest and the uncertainty that surrounded it.
I'm always open and honest with our administration, our recruits, our current players, and it's important they hear from me and not maybe what's on the media or social media. But it's not just, again, gaining knowledge from NFL executives. I gain knowledge from coaches around here. I spend time with Micah and some of our other coaches, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. Right? It's the same things we challenge our players to do every single day, right? Is how do you find ways to improve today? How do you find ways to choose hard to do today? And that's what I want to do. And so if I can utilize Brad Stevens here to watch his son play. Coach Stevens, not coach anymore, but Brad, can I meet with you? Let's just talk. What have you seen in your coaches in your time that help certain people become successful? And I think that's what I want to be an example of for our players, but that's what I believe in my heart, which makes maybe the best is they're never satisfied. They're always looking for a way to improve.
Okay, there you go. Good enough for you, Vince? What'd you think?
I mean, that's kind of always been his mantra, challenge everything, gain information, all of those kinds of things. That's always been who he was. So I guess I'm not overly surprised by the answer. And he tends to take a lot of questions and he takes them to answer and he kind of goes like this and then he gets it over to the challenge everything.
He's around it. Yep, yeah, that's right.
That's what it felt like.
That's true. Everything does come back to challenge everything, doesn't it?
It's a great mantra. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a great way to live your life. But that's definitely, he likes to talk about it.
Yeah, very true. So Chris he asked why earlier, and he says, why does Coach Freeman have to explain anything to us, the fans and reporters?
He doesn't have to, but there's also a bit of a responsibility to get, you are out there, you are a quote unquote celebrity, you are a public figure. There are some things that you have to get out there. Now, I would generally fall on the side of he doesn't have to. And it would get tedious, to be honest with you, if he responded to every single coaching rumor that comes across.
Right. Again, it would be like, okay, dude X on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, or whatever, right. Instagram, like guys are out here saying all this different stuff. Does Marcus Freeman need to address everything that pops up like that? Absolutely not. And he is ignoring, as he has referenced before, he ignores that stuff as much as possible. Because like if he was paying attention to that every day, he's obviously thinking about the wrong things.
Yeah, 100%. I will also say, even though what happened to him and his family is what's, got this press conference to happen in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Having this press conference at this moment was very beneficial because of everything else that's going on around the football program. With the transfer portal and the new class coming in and the rumors
and all these. Yeah. And obviously, like if you look at the fact that you all these early enrollees showed up in the freshman class and they have got all these guys out of the transfer portal. Obviously, there's no impact there. Like, they've done very well in
number one overall class.
Yeah, but when you combine the high school class and the transfer portal guys, Notre Dame has the number one incoming group of players, whatever you want to, if you want to just call it a recruiting class for 2026. That's going to be, on campus and on the team in August. They've got the number one incoming class right now. So there's obviously been no impact there. And like to Chris's point, well, like I understand the question, why does he owe a response? But at the same time, How many fans have been freaking out because Marcus Freeman hadn't said anything since early December and wanted answers
right
to all of these questions?
And we were spoiled last year.
I'm not saying he has to answer all of it, but obviously there is some benefit to at least end some of the speculation on a lot of different things and also put some positive glow on some different things, like whatever questions he happens to be asking.
And we were spoiled last year. At this point last year, we were still having weekly press conferences and we were having bowl game press conferences,
getting ready for a national championship game,
all of those things. Like we were talking to him on a regular basis all the way through this time last year. So we didn't have this drought of not being able to talk to Marcus Freeman for a month and a half. You know what I mean? So the way it worked out this year, I was glad they had a press conference when they did. That won't be the case every single year because hopefully Notre Dame is in the playoff and they're making their way through the playoffs, right? So, we'll have more opportunity to talk to Marcus Freeman and, all of those kinds of things. So it's going to vary every single year. Obviously, last year it felt like we went straight from the national championship to spring practice. That's what it felt like. And I wasn't yearning for a Marcus Freeman quote between the national championship and the spring
we're
ball.
All like, we don't need to hear anymore. We can all just give it a break.
Right.
Spring practice starts. No one's in a hurry.
Exactly. That's how it felt, man, because we were all exhausted after that season, Well,
and that's kind of like the year that Notre Dame in 2002, when I was doing the play-by-play for Notre Dame baseball and they went to the College World Series. The College World Series goes into June. Like it starts Father's Day weekend every year, and it goes until the end of June. And so, so we were there for like 5 days or whatever it was, and that was basically the longest stretch of doing games and the season going and all that stuff. And I just remember like that was the shortest summer ever, just because they went until the end of summer, and then covering football as well. It felt like baseball just ended and now training camp is starting again.
100%. Yes.
So it's that's what happened. I mean, it's like, it's a good problem to have. No one's complaining about it, but it's your off season gets adjusted. It's adjusted for everybody. It's great having the content. It's great having fun things to talk about, like playing for a championship, so like anyone who wants to say, oh, the extended format, the 12-team model and all this different stuff stinks. I loved it. And I like having not just, a semifinal and a championship game, but you've got multiple rounds and things keep happening over the course of more than a month.
Look, this past weekend where you had, it was the past weekend. You had football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and it was all playoff football between college and the NFL.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Like that. Sign me up. Like that was amazing. That was fantastic. It was a great weekend of football, and to have that in January. Yeah, I'm here for it, So absolutely. I very much like the expanded playoff, and we're obviously potentially going to talk about more expansion as we move forward, but
true.
Got opinions there too.
So, okay, Marcus Freeman did talk about things other than the NFL today. I'm going to give Vince the next choice. Here are some of the topics that you can choose from, what we're going to hear. He talked about the future of Notre Dame USC. He talked about like why things were quiet basically in the first week of the transfer portal. He talked about what changed to get some of these undergrad transfers in that they haven't traditionally got in the past. Did he have any regrets with Notre Dame not playing in a bowl game? And he also talked about the line of thinking when they were talking to Braden Atkinson, the guy from Mercer, about potentially coming in to back up CJ Carr out of the transfer portal. So Vince,
yes,
what do you want to hear from Marcus Freeman on?
It's a potpourri. I'm going to go with Alex. I will go with quiet on the first weekend for 200, please.
Quiet on the first week of the transfer portal. This is actually the longest response, I believe, that he gave today. He spoke a lot about this, about how things were quiet that first week of the transfer portal and having Mike Martin in the mix for the first time and what exactly was going on there. Here's what Marcus Freeman said.
I'm an aggressive person. You know that, in terms of I want to go 1,000 miles an hour. And Mike Martin continued to reiterate to me, he said, Marcus, let's run our race. Run our race. And he has a lot of experience with free agency from his NFL time, and I trusted him, right? And again, I didn't read all the noise, but I'm sure, listen, I don't have to be on Twitter to know what the noise is, right? And so there was times I had to remind him, you told me to run our race, like we're good. Let's be intentional about what we're doing. And, I think as we looked at our plan and how well we executed, it was developed around number one was roster retention. We wanted to take as much time as it took to retain the right guys on our current roster. And that was the most important thing to do, is to retain our roster. And then we had to have patience. We had to have patience knowing that there was going to be a second wave. We knew that, right? Now, it's through our discussions. The first time is just one transfer portal window. We knew kind of what it was going to be. And again, who we were targeting. If you were a grad transfer, your visit date was a little bit different than if you weren't a grad transfer. And there was some guys that, we had talked to that were in the portal, but we had to tell them, you have to finish school this spring semester before you come to Notre Dame. You can't be 99% done and just take all your credits and transfer over here. And so we knew there were certain guys that were probably going to say, no, I want to get there right now. And but I'm just proud of all of us, and especially our personnel department led by Mike Martin, in terms of their patience, their very intentional visits, conversations, not being in a race to be maybe the first one, right? But to be patient and getting the right one, and he kept using the word, we're going to be judicial in our spending, right? And again, those are things that he has from the experience in NFL. And as you look back on it, it was such a well-executed plan, and a lot of credit goes to Mike Martin and that staff.
A well-executed plan is what Marcus Freeman says about how things worked out. Again, it was a very quiet first week. It made fans very nervous. And Marcus Freeman, now it's interesting. I don't know how you know exactly, what people are thinking if you're not looking at social media and you don't know what they're saying.
I'm sure people let him know what's going on.
Yeah. But he mentioned roster retention in there being a priority. He mentioned patience, which obviously is hard for a lot of people. He mentioned the grad transfers having a different date to come in and visit compared to undergrads, and then the importance of finishing school in the spring and then potentially getting here in the summer for some of these guys in judicial spending as well. So what'd you think of that response, Vince?
Well, there was obviously a lot there. I think it all makes sense. I think now that we're looking back, and it's not even done yet, but looking back, I think people can be very happy with what the outcome ended up being as far as what Notre Dame was able to pull in from the transfer portal. Now, look, there were misses, and there were, depending on how you look at it and the sources that you talk to, were some things maybe, mishandled a little bit. Okay. But at this point, it's the ends. It's like, what happened at the end? What is the outcome of this whole thing? I think that's what you have to look at. And I think Notre Dame did a good job. Are doing a good job as far as who they're getting to sign on the dotted line, how they fit into Notre Dame and the holes that Notre Dame had, and what that's going to look like for 26. I think they're in really, really good shape. On the show last night, we were talking about our After Dark show that we did. We were talking about the portal class, and we kind of graded it out, and I put it in an A-. I think it's at an A- right now, and if they end up landing this kid from Oregon, I think it's an A. I think it's a solid A, and because Notre Dame hit the needs that they had.
And you're talking about, just for people who might not be following it really closely, you're talking about another defensive tackle from Oregon. Brian and I and Jesse touched on him a little bit last night, that really this would probably be like, if you can get him, then as of right now, you might be done with your class. Like, you'd be feeling real. You've already got one defensive tackle. You get this dude in because he's 6'3", 3. I know he's over 3 bills. I can't remember his exact weight.
Yeah,
he's a large man,
load.
maybe 330-ish, something
He's a
like
load
that.
on the inside, which is what you want from a defensive tackle for sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, if they can land him, this is an A class. This is an A class. Notre Dame hit the needs that they had and more is what they did.
But look, this also goes back to what we were talking about all along. And I know some people don't like to hear it. Some people have admitted that they were too, anxious about this whole thing, and they were too fired up and too negative about this whole thing, the way things have played out. But the way it played out, now, we didn't know for sure that it was going to play out like this because there's just so much uncertainty. But look at how it's turned out. You got like 3 5-star guys out of the transfer portal, 2 of them at wide receiver, who, like, that's a position that, as we all know, Notre Dame has not traditionally drawn 5-star talent in recruiting, but they've got 2 5-star guys with multiple years of eligibility coming over from Ohio State, which is basically wide receiver when it comes to college football, with the way they both recruit, develop, and put those guys into the NFL. So you've got 2 of those guys. You got Keeley, another 5-star guy they tried to recruit, and they've addressed specific needs just like always. And again, if all you were going to do is look at the outgoing versus the incoming, that ledger was never going to match for Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame was never going to sign 19 guys to make up for the 19 guys they lost. Again, most of them depth chart type guys, but they more than made up with it with specific needs they needed to address and the kind of talent that they have pulled in.
And they're trying to make the roster smaller than it was. Like, that is actually part of this whole thing, is they need to get to a certain number.
I think we talked about that.
And I don't even think they're going to be at 105 when it's all said and done. I think they're going to be under that, and that's okay. That's okay with the way things are. So I think Notre Dame did what they needed to do, and they're still doing it. Are we going to break, or can we have time to do the cut about guys coming in and having multiple years of eligibility?
Let's go to break because we're pushing up close to the top of the hour.
I thought so. Okay.
Let's break, and then we'll come back and do that. And I also want to make sure and get some of Marcus Freeman's comments about USC, because I think that's important, because people want to hear what he has to say about that as well. So we'll do that when we return with Vince D'Addario, Sean Steyers, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com winding down hour number one. A lot of comments from Notre Dame football coach Marcus Freeman from his press conference earlier today. We'll be doing a mailbag in the second hour of the show. So if you're driving home, one, be safe, but two, go pull up either the Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. Jump in there and you can throw a question in for us if you have something that you would like to ask. I've got a handful of things starred up from the live YouTube chat. I've got some from the Champions Lounge from earlier today as well. So before we took that break, Vince, you said that you wanted to hear what Marcus Freeman said about the undergrad transfers, because they've got multiple guys. Like both Ohio State wide receivers have multiple years of eligibility remaining. The defensive back, obviously from Michigan, was a true freshman. The kicker has multiple years of eligibility. So there's a lot of guys that are not coming in as grad transfers. They are just coming in as transfers, and those guys have traditionally been much harder for Notre Dame to get in. And so that is a big change this year, the fact that they were able to get those guys in. And here's what Marcus Freeman had to say about what changed.
Nikki Kidder runs our admissions, and she's the head of our admissions, and she has been absolutely amazing. And now she has conversations with the deans of the schools on what credits they'll admit from other schools. And so those are a lot of conversations that she's having to talk about how many credits we're going to take. But obviously we're taking more than previous because we're now getting some undergraduates admitted. But again, we conversate with Mickey, and then she conversates with the deans of the school. And but I just couldn't be more grateful to the work that our admissions and our deans have done to say, okay, we understand the landscape's changing, and we'll take more hours from different institutions.
The landscape is changing, so they're willing to take more hours from other institutions. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
The only landscape that has changed is Notre Dame allowing this to happen. Like, that's the landscape that has changed.
Well, I mean, the bigger picture landscape,
I know. I'm joking partially because Notre Dame could have stayed pat with what they do when it comes to admissions, and they could have been like, no, we're not doing this. They either come over as a graduate or they come over as an incoming freshman, and that's it. And you deal with it. And they are a little bit more lax now. And I think that's a really, really good thing, obviously, for the football program and any of the 26 varsity sports that Notre Dame has.
Well, that's exactly right.
Want to bring somebody in,
That's exactly right. Because there are, like I can tell you about conversations I've had about women's basketball with, because they obviously had to bring more players than usual in from the portal this year. And there were multiple players who wanted to come here and who Notre Dame wanted. And these were like all conference type players, and they are playing at other schools right now because of, for different reasons, but basically because, like the admissions process kept them out. That's what it came down to. And so this has been like, if it was ever going to happen, it had to start with football. And it has started with football. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how that also trickles to some of these other teams.
Yeah, 100%. And we all know that it starts with football. Football was the first one to bring in year enrollee, all of these different things, right? It starts with football, and then everybody else kind of gets a piece of the action. And I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but football's the big money maker, and that's kind of how it works.
No, and that's a big part of it. And so you wonder, like, how much, because Pete Bavacqua has talked openly about it. I'm a Notre Dame grad. I grew up a Notre Dame fan. All this stuff means something to me. And he has talked time and time again about we are here to win national championships. And he has also talked about the fact that for Notre Dame to remain independent, they have to remain relevant on the big picture college football landscape. And you can't do that, to kind of the point that you made. With the landscape changing and everything, you can't do that with what college football has become just in the last 4 or 5 years if you're not willing to be a little bit more flexible with who you can get in. Like, you can't just have grad student guys, because especially in the sport of football. Now, I think it has changed a little bit in that you've got like the Diego Pavias and Trinidad Chamblises, and there are others as well, but those are two of the more high profile guys who realize that they can cash in the short term and make sure that they're getting, really good, NIL type money when they have a little bit more uncertainty when it comes to their NFL future.
Sure.
But football is a sport where you get to your third year and a lot of guys are going to be gone to the NFL. They're not sticking around to pursue graduate degrees, is my point.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And Notre Dame's bringing in guys from all over, Ohio State, Alabama, they're bringing them in from all over, potentially Oregon, and they're able to get those classes in. And every one of those schools that I just mentioned gave Notre Dame players that have multiple years of eligibility. They're not graduates. These guys are coming in the middle of their college careers, or the beginning of, really. And Notre Dame's allowing them to come in. Now, that's not saying Notre Dame's going to lower any kind of standard once they're here. They're still going to be held to the same standard as everybody else, but getting them in the door is the key. And it's been this way for a long time, and it's for regular students as well. Getting in the door, getting admitted is the hardest thing to do. Once you're there, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a lot easier to be successful once you're in the door than it is to break down the door.
That's right. That's actually, I remember back in the days, this has been, 20 plus years ago when I was hosting the Notre Dame football coaches show, when we were over at Logan's Roadhouse doing that every week. But I remember that is a specific conversation. Mike Goolsby was on the show and we were talking about academics, and those are the exact words that Goolsby said. Getting in is the toughest part. Once you're here, there's so much of a support system.
Right.
And, you figure things out that it's easy once you actually, not easy, but it's much easier than you would think once you actually get here. Getting in is the toughest part, is what he said.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
All right. Well, we've heard a lot from Marcus Freeman. I think we'll take a break and
Okay.
we'll do a couple more comments before we get into the mailbag portion of the show. And then we'll do mailbag in hour number 2, because we got a lot of good questions, and obviously a lot of it deals with this kind of stuff. But I think we got 2 more comments. The USC, what he said about USC, and also if he had any regrets ultimately about not playing in a bowl. We'll hear that after the top of the hour. That's coming up 6:00 hour. Get your questions in if you've got some mailbag questions for us in the YouTube chat. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is hour number 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com, along with Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Hope you're having a great night. And again, if you're out and about, driving around South Bend, be careful out there. It is nasty.
It is.
For a while.
Snow day!
It's been a weird winter. It snows. We get multiple inches. It melts. It comes back. We haven't had one of these winters in quite a while, it seems like.
Completely agree. We had snow days in November this year, and then it was green for Christmas, and then here we are in the middle of January, which is normal to get this kind of stuff, but like it was 47 degrees like yesterday or the day before. So it's been kind of wild.
I know. We've got mailbag coming up. We're going to be answering some mailbag questions here in a minute. Wanted to get to couple more comments from Marcus Freeman, though. The Southern Cal series came up today, just teed it right up for Marcus Freeman. And here's what he said about the future of Notre Dame USC.
I don't listen to a lot of noise. Look, I've said this before. That rivalry is important, right, for college football. And I'm confident that with Ron Paulus and people, we'll get that rivalry back. You know me, I'm a competitive individual, right? And I want to go play anytime, anywhere. But at the same token, it's important that I make decisions that are best for the program, right? And to move a game that we were pretty sure was going to be week 12 to week 0 isn't what's best for our program. And they had to make decisions that were best for their program. I don't blame them, right? They had to make decisions. We had to make decisions. And so blame me. I just want to make sure that we have a great opportunity this season to go out and we have a schedule that if we do what we're supposed to do and leave no doubt, as you continue to hear me say, that we can get into the playoffs, and that's what's important. But again, I'm confident that this rivalry will continue at some point, hopefully in the near future.
Trust me, Marcus Freeman, Los Angeles is blaming you now. I haven't been on social media since then to see what kind of things were said, but I'm sure if it hasn't stirred up, it's going to be, because they loved it. Like there's just so much back and forth in this whole deal. It's ridiculous.
What a different response from one head coach to the other when asked about why this rivalry is not taking place anymore. The other guy was, it was the old bait and switch. We had an agreement and then they pulled out of it and blah, blah, blah. It's not our fault. And Marcus Freeman's like, hey, if you want to blame, you can go ahead and blame me. That's fine. We had what we thought, and it changed, and we didn't want to do it. Blame me. Somebody who takes accountability. That's different.
That's exactly right. And look, the explanation that he gave is like, I think most people on this side are fully fine with it. Again, USC is just going to use that as
of course
chum, and they're going to jump all over it.
But sure.
But he had to look out for what's best for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And look, if all it means is that there is a short break in the series and they end up getting it figured out, that's great. But as we've talked about before, like their schedule, they had all these different games set at the front of the schedule, and moving another one even farther forward, it didn't benefit Notre Dame for this year. I think it was more about this year. And if it was a deal breaker for USC, to do this for one more year or 2 more years, to have the Notre Dame USC game in November in 2026 and then come to South Bend again in 2027, like they've been doing for decades now, that was obviously a deal breaker for Southern Cal. So fine, see if you can get it figured out going forward. But they both had to do in their minds what was best for their programs. And I can't blame Marcus Freeman in this instance because of what was already set at the front of the schedule. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. And he also acknowledged, he's like, I don't blame them. They had to do what they had to do. We had to do what we had to do. And it just didn't work out, Yeah. It was that, you know what that's called, Sean? That's called a grown-up answer.
I was going to say, being an adult, Vince.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Well, it's nice that there was at least one adult in the room. You know what I mean? Or at least one adult that has a microphone in front of them. So, geez.
Right. Lincoln Riley can just go stand out in the middle of a field, and they'll pull up the backdrop there at Southern Cal and call it a press conference.
And they're probably still looking for an opponent. Notre Dame isn't, because everybody wants to play Notre Dame, contrary to anything that you read on social media.
Oh, Vince, I'm sure Georgia State will just drop in fine.
I know, right?
Blood
Seriously.
Yeah.
Sacramento State, somebody like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They'll get it figured out. Yep. Okay. One last thought, because obviously the whole bowl situation was a lightning rod situation. Like even in terms of lightning rods, like I think the two biggest things were the opting out of the bowl, and the Notre Dame USC thing over these last several weeks, beyond the snub from the college football playoff, obviously. But I'm talking about more externally. But Freeman was asked if he had any regrets about not playing in a bowl when the Pop-Tarts Bowl came around last month.
I don't know if it was the Pop-Tart Bowl that I thought that, but maybe it was the first round of the playoffs. I was like, man, I wish we were playing. And then the second round and the third round, and I'm sure a national championship game, I'll think that. But no, I don't second guess the decision we made. I'm proud of our leadership. I'm proud of our captains because of how they came to that decision. And they had the full support of myself and our administration to make that final decision. And as I said, I'm sure in the follow-up, it wasn't an emotional decision, right? Maybe the first time was, I don't know, but I challenged them again. And I challenged them again right up till we had to make, okay, we have 1 minute to make this decision. I'm going to ask you one more time. And I'm going to talk to the leaders. Are you guys sure this is what we want to do? Because I didn't want them to regret it. Right? And they were convicted in their decision, and I fully support them.
I think that's probably one of the better answers that he gave to anything all day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying other answers weren't good, but it's like to me, it feels like I like the way he started, because the Pop-Tarts Bowl was at, did you regret it when the Pop-Tarts Bowl came around? Well, I don't know if it was the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but I was sure mad that we weren't in the playoffs, and I've got no problem with our guys deciding, like, the amount of people who still respond to this, like it was Notre Dame's obligation to play in a lower tier bowl. And I get it. The Pop-Tarts Bowl has risen in terms of the tier because all the good bowls are in the college football playoff now, but it is still the Pop-Tarts.
Still a consolation prize, no matter how you slice
the playoffs is a consolation prize. And it's documented on the video, him talking to the captains. There was nothing nefarious in this. The only games you're obligated to play are 1 through 12. You play 12 games of a regular season. Anything after that it's called the postseason for a reason. And you are not required to play in the postseason if you don't want to play in the postseason. And Notre Dame was under no obligation to do that. So I've got no problems with it. I'm surprised at the number of people who do still have a problem with the fact that Notre Dame didn't want to play in a bowl that was not in the playoffs after they were right on that line of being in the playoffs.
And they would have been a shell of themselves, which is the other piece of it, right? I mean, they would have all these opt-outs and all of these different things. And, I get it. I understand why they did it. And it wasn't an emotional decision. It was a calculated decision. It wasn't meant to hurt ratings or anything like that. Like, that is not why they did it. They did it for the reasons that we've heard all along. And I love the fact that they, as Marcus Freeman put it, they were convicted in their reasoning, and they still are to this day, and they have no regrets. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And Notre Dame has not been shy about putting out there the behind the scenes footage and all of these different things that went behind the decision making and their response and all of those. They're not hiding anything, which I do like.
They didn't quit on their season, which again, like the chorus, like people keep trying to say that their season ended at Stanford. After that, it was their choice as to what, when they were left out of the playoff, even when you get invited to the playoff. Do you remember like when the bowl people showed up like ceremoniously after they beat Indiana in the first round of the playoff last year to make the token.
Right.
You are now invited to the
Right.
Super Bowl. It's
They
like,
hand him the football and
yeah,
the whole.
you still technically have to say yes that you're going to do that, because the regular season is games 1 through 12, and everything on top of that is icing to whatever extent. And Notre Dame decided that they didn't want Pop-Tarts icing. They were only in it for playoff icing. And again, I can't blame their players. I can't blame their coaches for feeling that way. And again, the economics of the whole thing, like that's a whole nother thing as well in terms of what you actually get out of playing it. There was much more financial benefit for the city of Orlando, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and ESPN than there was for Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. 100%, which is a nice byproduct of that decision, but it wasn't the reason for the decision.
Correct.
Nobody was thinking that way.
All right, quick timeout, and then we are back with some mailbag questions submitted by listeners tonight. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Mailbag time. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stiers, along with Vince D'Addario. Got a lot of questions. Not a lot, but a good amount to get to anyway. So I'm not going to waste any time. We're just going to jump into it. We're going to start answering some questions here. Domer Grizz says, of the portal pickup so far, who are you most excited about? Who will have the biggest impact in 2026? We've got some other impact questions. I think there's someone who asked like the 3 most impact. Go ahead. Like for me right now, and I was actually going to look up the official pronunciation of his name. To me, it's Brew. I still don't know.
It's I think it's very simple. I think it's like brew. Yeah. Like I think it's very simple from what I've heard from other people, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
Correct.
So that's who you're most excited about?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the parentheses at the bottom. It says Vince, if either of those is the kicker, who is second, which is hilarious because I could pick that for either one of these. But I won't. I'm most excited about Keon Keeley being back in the fold and what he might be able to do. And he's got a couple of years of eligibility. So he's the one I'm most excited about. Do you have a biggest impact, or is that your same guy?
Okay. I'm looking at the Pitt Panthers game notes. This is why I was kind of pausing on you. It says Brew-woo.
Brew-woo.
In their pronunciation guide. Brew-woo.
Okay.
Is what it says. That's according to the Pitt Panthers game notes from the season that just ended. Brew-woo.
Okay.
So, yeah, see, like people are trying to claim otherwise, but I'm looking at Pitt Panthers game notes. Brew-woo is what it says in the pronunciation guide.
Okay, there it is.
Till we hear otherwise, that's what I'm going with. We'll have a chance to talk to him, I'm sure, at some point, because they usually, they like the way it's been the last couple, especially since there is a full off season this year. They have like a newcomers, media, day kind of thing and that kind of thing. So for me right now, it is him. I understand the Keon Keeley thing since everyone was excited about him, but the defensive tackle was the biggest area of need. And when you look at like everything that comes with Brew-woo, I think there's a lot to be excited about, just how he plays. He's a penetrator. He's not just a space eater and that kind of thing, more along the lines of Howard Cross, but I think he's an elevated level of Howard Cross playing in the middle. So that's why I'm so excited about him. And so that's why, I would say both from both an impact standpoint and from an excitement standpoint, Brew-woo is my answer to both.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to say it, but I think the kicker is going to have a pretty darn big impact. It won't necessarily be
like that bigger leg,
Yeah, man. Yeah, buddy. He's got a huge leg. He was averaging in the camps and stuff, and I've seen this kid kick live. Like he was kicking 74 plus kickoffs. Like that 74-yard kickoffs with almost a 4-second hang, like that's massive.
Tuco is asking your expert opinion about the new kicker.
Spencer Porath is a great kicker. He's a really good kicker. He got a full ride to go to Purdue. That's not a normal thing out of high school to get a full ride to a D1. It's why he went to Purdue in the first place. And he was a starting kicker when he walked through the door. He had an average freshman year. He had a really good sophomore year. I mean, he was over 88%. Only missed 2 field goals. One was in the 40 to 49 range, and one was the 50-plus range. But he was like 17 of 19 or something like that. Like the kid is accurate. He's got a big leg. I think that he's your starting kicker walking in the door at Notre Dame too.
I feel like if you wanted to, Vince, there's a niche for you. Like you could go out there and cover the kicking game.
I'm in. Sold.
Yeah, do it.
You pick up a lot of stuff going on the circuit. You know what I mean? You pick up a lot of stuff, and so I'm excited about this kid. He's really, 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 really good.
Yeah, 2 years left.
Yeah.
Rebel Irish is asking 2 years left that he has. So
He's
that's nice too.
Junior. Yeah. Again, he falls into that category of guys they're bringing in with multiple years of eligibility. He's not just a 1-year wonder. And I will say this: I hope that they don't mess with him. Just come in here, do your thing. Like, don't try to fix it. Don't try to do and just let him do his thing.
Let him cook. That's right.
Hands off.
Swing that leg.
That's right.
Domer also asks, which former Notre Dame player who entered the portal will we miss the most in 26 and in 27?
Well, Josh Burnham, I think, is the answer for 26. I think if he got I don't know that he would have gotten the playing time that he wanted, that kind of a deal. But I think that his production could be missed the most of all the people that entered the portal.
I mean, that would be my answer. At the very least, he was going to play the most. Like most of these other guys were going to be special teams contributors.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to sound mean-spirited about it, but I don't think of the guys who left there's really any impact that's going to be felt in 27.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's the other thing, like projecting all the way to 27, that's giving these guys 2 years of growth and strength and all of those things. Who knows? Like you have to ask yourself this. Traditionally,
of guys who have left Notre Dame, like who have gone on and had big careers.
It's a great point.
At other places.
It's a great point. Like Steve Angeli started out pretty good. Then he got hurt, right? And you can go down the list.
We'll see him again next year, assuming he's healthy. He'll be back. But
yeah, I mean, you go down the list of all the guys that have transferred. I mean, they just haven't really done anything, and a lot of them have transferred again to other schools.
Yeah, Rebel says he thinks KK will be good.
That's fair.
But again, you can think, but he has to go out and actually show that he can do it. And that's what he just wasn't able to do that in his time here at Notre Dame.
He signed someplace, didn't he?
Michigan State.
That's right. Yes.
And he'll have an opportunity. So good for him.
Absolutely he will.
Yeah. They lost a couple receivers.
Yeah, he'll start up there, I would think.
Audric Chestame asks, with the addition of Graham and Porter, the two receivers from Ohio State, what is your projected depth chart for the wide receivers this fall?
Oh, I think Porter's got a great shot of starting in the boundary, excuse me. And then I think you're going to have Greathouse and Faison on the other side. I think that's your starting three. And then, after that, I think there's a decent chance you're going to get Micah Gilbert. You're going to get Cam Williams. I think you could get Graham potentially at that point. Those would be the first ones off the top of my head. Am I missing anybody?
No, I think that you're probably looking at Faison and Graham sort of battling for the field spot, don't you think? And then, in terms of the slot, Faison still has the flexibility where he could move into the slot, but it feels like that is like it's Greathouse's job to grab a hold of. He's got to be the leader in the clubhouse right now, but you're probably going to see some duplication, I would think, of those guys, probably Faison or maybe Graham, like moving to some different positions. But I pretty much agree with kind of what you're saying right now in terms of who's at the front. That I think the spring, there's going to be a lot of potential movement because, the one thing about both Graham and Porter is while they were 5-star guys, there's a little bit like Cam Williams is obviously in the same boat where they're going to have to go out and they're all 5-star guys, but now they've got to go out and prove that they can do it. So there's a ton of upside there that's the only downside to getting these guys is they've gone out in the past, the past couple of years and gotten guys like Malachi Fields and Will Pauling and, and Bo Collins who had a proven track record that they can do it. This is more an upside move with getting these guys much more than proven track record.
Well, and I think they felt really good about having Faison and Greathouse in the fold. And those are kind of your proven guys now. And then they're bringing in guys that have, the high ceiling of possibility, right? The 5-star and the talent level. I think they feel really good about those two. And okay, let's go high ceiling on some other spots. That's how I feel like they went after the wide receiver recruiting. And we'll, obviously we'll see how it plays out. I think those are the 6 that I named are the 6 guys that have the most experience from an age standpoint. Now, will any of these younger guys that are coming in, there's a 5-man, wide receiver crew coming in, and there's obviously some guys still on the roster. So what is that going to look like? That's what spring's for. That's what fall is for. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Ballpeen asks, of all the pickups, the portal pickups, who do you believe will be the 3 most impactful?
That's like half the class. They've only picked up 6 guys.
All right. So I'll go with Brewu. Okay. I'll go with the kicker. And I will go with DJ McKinney from Colorado. Those will be my 3.
I don't know if McKinney's going to start. But that's fair.
Whether or not I think we find that out.
Yeah,
starts.
Sure. I would do the same 2 that you had at the top, and then I'll go Porter as my number 3.
See, we talked the other day, and again, how this shakes out, I don't know. But because McKinney is a little, not quite I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe McKinney is outside, and you could see Christian Gray potentially moving inside.
It's possible. I think the golden kid is really good. But
But
again,
it's also going to take more than one guy.
let's have some competition. Let's go. Like, I'm all about it. Competition. Let's go.
Yep. Ballpeen also asks, if CJ balls out like we expect, who do you think will be deemed his favorite target by season's end?
Well, Sean, I have a question. I'll just throw this right back at you. Who's his favorite target right now?
Jordan Faison.
Bingo.
He was their leading receiver this year. And like, the guy's not going to play lacrosse. He's going to be there all spring, and I see that continuing. I think the biggest question is, one, with a whole offseason, you expect Jaden Greathouse to be healthy. But two, even before the injury occurred, like, he wasn't that involved in the passing game. And so I think that's going to be,
that's true.
Really important this spring, kind of for, like some chemistry to be built between CJ Carr and Jaden Greathouse potentially, because we've all seen what kind of a weapon he can be. We all know how explosive he is and what a difference maker that he can be if he's involved more.
I completely agree. This spring is going to be huge for all of that, really. And I don't think CJ Carr is going to be the kind of guy that is just like, narrowed in on one guy all the time or anything like that. He's going to throw to the open guy.
Correct.
But Faison was by far his favorite target last year.
Yeah.
Because he knew that Faison's got good hands. He could put it there. It's going to get caught, and then there's the chance for, yards after the catch. So all of those things I just said can also be true of Greathouse, and they can probably also be true of Porter and Graham. So, I think CJ Carr is just licking his chops to get out on the practice field.
Andre wants to know, which portal player over the last 3 years has made the biggest impact for you? I'm just going to go with Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Because he led him to a national championship game. That's where I've got to go.
That's exactly where I was going to go. But so just to play devil's advocate, I'll go a different direction. And I'm going to go with Javonte Jean-Baptiste. I thought he was a very impactful player.
I like
especially with what they thought they were getting from him when he came over and what he ended up giving them. I thought he was a very impactful player. But I agree with you. It was going to be Riley Leonard for me too.
Let me see. Al Aquino asks, was it Marcus Freeman that hired Mike Martin, or was it Pete Bavacqua? I think it was a combination of the two.
Agreed. I think it was.
I don't know what the exact
the percentage would be. Yeah. I would say it was probably primarily Marcus Freeman, but I'm sure Pete had his say.
Because he had to be comfortable with what he wanted from the guy in that position, because at Notre Dame, obviously at different places where the general manager is on the pecking order is different. Like at Stanford, it sits at the top of the depth chart where, Andrew Luck is above the head coach basically and responsible for hiring the head coach. But more so here, it's about what the head coach wanted in a general manager, just like when Chad Bowden was here, Marcus Freeman was over him. So yeah, I think it was mostly Marcus Freeman, but Pete Bavacqua was would I believe have been there, through and at least gone through the interview process with Mike Martin as well.
Yeah.
Johnny says the fact that Marcus Freeman doesn't care about what fans think actually pisses off a lot of fans. What do you think about that aspect? This is, this came up in the first hour.
Wow.
I don't think that he doesn't care about what I think. It's that he can't afford to be thinking about what everyone is thinking about his decisions all the time, about what he is or isn't doing. Just like, like in this business, what do they say? Don't read the comments.
Right.
There are comments there on the YouTube after every show. There are comments on the Apple podcasts. Don't read the comments is what they say, because, like some are good, some are bad, but more times than not, they're not going to be that great. So you just can't afford to get caught up in that, especially as the head coach of a program, a high profile program like Notre Dame, when you're trying to run your business every day.
It cannot, that cannot be at the forefront of your decision-making process. You can't be like, well, I wonder what the fans are going to think about this decision that I'm about to make. Like that, that can never be your thought process ever. Just like my thought process at my job is, I wonder what the student body is going to think about the decision I'm about to make. Like, that's not, you can't operate like that, and he doesn't, which is good.
I agree. I'm not sure what Joe is asking here. He says, did the 5 years only go into effect from the worthless NCAA?
I think that you had a rapid fire question kind of about this.
Nothing has been approved yet.
Yeah, there you go.
That whole the red shirt thing. Is that what you're asking about?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. Or right.
The coaches voted for it, but it would still have to be approved by the NCAA, if that's what you're asking about. So there's still a long way to go with that. Tommy wants to know how my wife is doing, if she is fully recovered. She's just always got something going on. Don't we all? We're in our 50s. That's how it goes. No, she is mostly, I would say she is 100% recovered from the whole appendectomy that happened back in October, the night before Jesse's wedding and all that kind of stuff. Had some kind of lingering effects for a while, but things finally panned out. She shattered her ankle a couple of years ago, and she's actually having some issues with that right now.
I remember that. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, but thanks for asking, Tommy. Appreciate it. I'll pass that along to her. She'll go, oh yeah, Tommy. I'm glad Tommy cares.
She'll be touched.
Right.
She'll be touched.
She'll be, oh my God, are you talking about me on the show?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's going to get said.
Played like a champion. Has multiple questions.
Oh boy, here we go.
Going beyond what Marcus Freeman said at his press conference today, what do you think are the biggest questions Freeman and Notre Dame football learned from being shut out of the college football playoff?
Well, I mean, the biggest lesson they learned is you got to win games. Like that, you got to win your games. That's the biggest lesson learned. Now they may go back and they may think maybe they should have gone on the offensive when it came to social media and media in general and things like that. Maybe. But to be honest with you, Marcus Freeman specifically as the head coach of the Notre Dame football team, his biggest lesson is we can't lose 2 games.
Right.
That's it.
As long as it's a 12-team format, you can't afford to lose 2 games. Because if they just split those 2 games, they're at worst probably the 6th seed. And I'm saying at worst probably the 6th seed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're basically either the 5 or 6 seed would be my guess if they had split those 2 games against Miami and Texas A&M. So
100%. Yeah, just don't lose 2 games.
Probably the 6th because it would have depended because obviously A&M lost that game late, and then there would have been a whole question. You would have heard a different conversation about a head-to-head and who should be the higher seed probably, and all that kind of stuff between Notre Dame and Texas A&M. But the bottom line is, you win one of those games and don't lose both of those games, you're in the playoff. That's
exactly. There's no anything going on December or whatever it was when they got shut out. Like there's no anticipation. It's just what seed are they going to get and who are they going to host? Like that's it.
Played like a champion also asked if the athletics departments or other parts of the university could go back in time and change some things. What would it do differently to ensure Notre Dame made the playoff? Again, I don't think there's anything that was in their control. Could they have, to your point about like going on the offensive a little bit, like when the Miami ACC stuff was going on? Like the only thing they really could have done there, because I don't think that they were going to go, like start taking shots at Miami, but maybe you could have like put out some different graphics on social media, like we're ranked this in offense, this in, like basically like your statistical markers and stuff like that, your strength of schedule, and just talk about, how good you are without necessarily comparing themselves to others. But again, I don't know how far that would go the way things shook out in all this. I just don't think that a different PR campaign was going to change things.
No, I don't think it would have made any difference whatsoever. So I don't think they've really learned anything in that regard, right? Again, win the game. Like that's what you have to do. And maybe Pete Bavacqua needs to have a conversation with the CFP, not the committee, but the I don't even know what they're called, but the board or whatever, and be like, look, if this was how you were going to do it, then you should have knocked us down like 3 weeks ago. Like that's the
the biggest
issue
issue.
that I have.
Yes.
Like, you could make a case that Notre Dame didn't deserve to be in. Okay, fine. But
why did it take so long to get to that?
Exactly. They shouldn't have dropped 2 spots in a week
for no
at the
reason.
very end when they didn't even play. And
Right.
the team that jumped them didn't even play. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that would be my conversation. It's like, look, if you guys want to have us out, fine, no problem. But that probably should have taken place in the middle of November, not in December.
Correct. Okay, so let me see if I can
Look at you sharing your screen.
Get this up here in the right space, because we still have people talking about how you say the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh's name correctly. And this is from the Pitt Panthers game notes. As you can see, it says pronunciation guide. Can you read that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So Francis Brew is how they spell it, or how they write it out phonetically.
That's all we have to go off of, guys.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't paying attention during the season to how his name was being said on any of the broadcasts, but the Pittsburgh Panthers, where Francis Brew used to play, in their pronunciation guide and their official game notes, says his name is pronounced Brew. So, again, until we get a chance to talk to him face to face, that's what we're going with.
And maybe they messed it up over at Pitt, and they just decided to call him whatever they wanted, and he never changed it. But you would think that they would have it right.
You would hope. Let's take our final timeout, and then back. This will be a short timeout too, by the way, and we're back to hit up a few more mailbag questions before we wrap up the show tonight. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com, doing a little Notre Dame football mailbag. Tonight, we heard from Marcus Freeman in the first hour of the show tonight. A lot of different comments from him. Is today Wednesday? Vince, it is Wednesday, right?
It is Wednesday, yeah.
Because I've got a Notre Dame women's basketball game tomorrow night. I wouldn't be here if it was
That's a solid point. Yeah, good point.
Speaking of which, Renee, watching on the sports radio WSBT, this just cracked me up. So I felt like I had to put it. It says, love what you do, especially when you interview the Lady Irish. I live in Utah, but have season tickets.
Wow.
Man, how does that even work? Like, do you get out here?
Wow.
And go to games very often? Raise my daughter watching the team. Renee says, I'm blocked on IB.
Uh-oh.
So I have to give you a shout out here. Well, don't come after Brian on IB, I guess, and you won't be blocked. That's
Yikes.
what else to say.
That.
So I don't know what precipitated that. Irish Gordian Knot says, I always love the pronunciation disagreements. And it's like, look,
we're not trying to disagree. We're just going off of what it says right there.
I realize, people have chimed in the chat that they've heard different interviews with Francis Brew, however, and apparently he says his name Brew. Okay, maybe it's kind of a nickname. He's like, just call me Brew. I don't know. But the pronunciation guide from when he played at Pitt says it's Brew. So that's, and like, I know Brian has said one thing, and I've said this before. This is not a shot. This is not a shot at Brian. But Brian still calls Niel Livey Niel. So I can't go by what Brian is telling me about pronunciations. I'm sorry. Every time we have a conversation, he says Niel. So I can't use Brian as my source on this. So that's why I'm using the Pitt Panthers pronunciation guide from their official game notes.
Yep. And then once they get an official pronunciation from Notre Dame,
something different. Yeah. Once Notre Dame puts out whatever it is, we'll go. So
exactly.
No, Gordian Knot. I consider this a closed subject. Marcus Freeman closed the door on the Tribune thing today.
He did. Some
people were joking in here yesterday, asking if you were going to ever be allowed back on the show again after disagreement.
See, that's how often we do not disagree. That's
right. People aren't used to seeing it.
The one time, and somebody earlier called it a tiff. It's like we're married to each other. I thought only like married couples can have a tiff.
I did feel like Jesse was like sitting there and like mommy and daddy are fighting. I don't want to get in the middle of this whole thing.
Oh, I know. That's so true.
See, here comes facilitate. He says it's a silent U. Again, I'm not talking about this again until we get either an official pronunciation from Notre Dame or I hear him say what his name is. Because even like the Charles Jagasaw thing, we heard different pronunciations.
We heard him say Jagasaw when he was in high school, by the way.
Right.
And now it's different.
And now it's Jagasaw. Yeah. So these things, like, guys change their own pronunciations all the time.
Right. It's Theismann, Heisman, Thiesman, that whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Changing your whole name.
How about Big Frank? Frank the Tank? I don't know if he goes, there you go, Rebel. Frank the Tank, thinking along the same lines. Okay, time for a couple more questions. Audric Chestame says, obviously they didn't get Marsh, the wide receiver from Michigan State, but in your opinion, did they end up in better position with Porter? They might not have proven talent, but is the ceiling higher with Porter? Definitely higher ceiling.
Yes.
It's just a matter of if he comes close to reaching that ceiling while he's at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I bet the ceiling is absolutely higher. So, time will tell as to whether it was a better move or not. I don't know that we can even say that, but I think Notre Dame's in good shape. How about that? I think they'll be fine. They'll be just fine.
Paul Bean Shillelagh says, what statement do you think it makes to the rest of college football that Freeman went and took two former five-star receivers from the Ohio State University?
I think it's that Ohio State is wide receiver U, and they stockpile really, 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 really good wide receivers, and there's only one ball and so many spots. And eventually those guys are probably going to take off someplace else. If this was 15 years ago and this was like Alabama stockpiling talent, then they would have waited their turn and stayed at Ohio State. But that is not the world that we live in right now. So, that it just is what it is, and Notre Dame is benefiting from it.
Yeah. I mean, Jeremiah Smith has one more season of eligibility. There's only so many balls to go around out there. So Chris is asking, why did Josh Burnham really leave? I can't believe he would leave because of competition with Young.
That's not why he left. So he didn't leave because it was competition. I mean, it was. I'll just leave it at that because I don't know what's allowed to be out there and what's not. He didn't leave because of competition. That's not who Josh Burnham is.
Super ND, what will the closest Notre Dame scoring average be at the end of the 26th regular season? 50-10, 40-15, or 30-20? I think with the schedule that they're playing, it's going to be closer to 50-10. I'm not saying it's going to be 50-10, but
I'll say 40-15.
Yeah, 40-15 is probably the better.
Yeah.
Jeff ND1, agree or disagree? Out of all the players who left the roster this postseason, excluding those entering the draft early, Love, Price, Wagner, and Trout, the one whose proven productivity will be hardest to replace is the punter, James Rendell.
Absolutely not. That will not be the hardest thing to replace. Sorry. I mean, he had a good season. Don't get me wrong. He had a good season. He did not have an All-American season. No. I just know. I mean, there will be guys that are much, much more difficult to replace. Like, I don't know, Jeremiah Love.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to think of the other guys. And, very, very fortunately that they didn't lose a ton of guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
A handful of guys. And especially if you look at the tandem, I think that Love and Price are going to be the hardest.
Yeah. And look, ton of talent in the running back room. I'm very excited about all of those guys that are in there. But I can't, as much as I am a pro special teams guy, I cannot say that he's going to be missed that much.
But Vince is very anti-Australian. Yes, Rebel, they did get another Australian.
They did.
Hunter.
I'm not anti-Australian.
Come on now.
I am. I'm anti-Biaggi and his lazy recruiting.
Okay.
Hey, you
point.
We brought it up.
Weichman65 wants to know if the undergraduate thing will translate over the men's and women's basketball teams. Let's hope so. I do hope so. Can't say for a fact, but
I would think so.
Precedent had to be set by football for it to eventually trickle to men's and women's basketball. So will it for sure? I don't know, but you would think so because the door has been open now for this to happen.
Yeah. Yep, I would think so. It'll trickle down to all the rest of the sports at some point, probably sooner than later, I would think.
I would think so as well. I think that's going to do it for the time that we have. We're going to up here in under a minute. So I'll be gone tomorrow. Vince and Trevor is going to be with you tomorrow, right?
It's going to be Trev and I for the sprint to the finish, 5 to 5:40, before we hand it off to you. Be like
little rapid fire 5 o'clock hour.
Hand the baton off to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So if you didn't get here for everything, we did a little mailbag this hour. We heard from Marcus Freeman in the first hour. You can always go back, download the podcast, or go to either of the YouTube channels, Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio WSBT. Vince, I will see you on Friday.
Yeah, buddy.
Everybody else, have a great night. Talk to you later. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.